Have you ever looked someone in the eye and felt something wasn't right? Maybe it wasn't anything they said or did directly, but an unmistakable feeling that their intentions weren't as pure as they seemed. It's unsettling, isn't it? Evil, no matter how much we try to define it, often hides in plain sight. It's not the dark, ominous force we see in movies. It's far more subtle, slipping into your life without warning. I've learned that evil rarely announces itself. It wears disguises, charm, helpfulness, even affection. It operates silently until it's exposed, and when that happens, its reaction is swift and calculated. But here's the thing, you can't always explain it logically. Your heart recognizes it long before your mind catches up. You feel it in your gut, a tension, a quiet alarm telling you something is wrong. The scariest part? Evil doesn't only dwell in the shadows. It thrives in places we consider safe. In friendships, family ties, workplaces, even sacred institutions. It hides in the faces of people we trust, blending in until the moment they no longer can. That realization that someone you believed in, confided in, or even loved is not who they pretended to be, can shake you to your core. So, what do you do when you uncover their true nature? How do they react when they know the mask has slipped? I've seen it firsthand, and let me tell you, their behavior shifts dramatically. The charm disappears, the excuses begin, and sometimes the lengths they'll go to protect their lies are shocking. In this video, I want to share 7 signs that someone's true colors have been revealed. These signs are grounded in the practical wisdom of Stoicism, a philosophy that has taught me to face life's challenges with calmness and clarity. Stoicism doesn't teach us to avoid the reality of evil, but to confront it without letting it destroy our peace. These aren't just theories, they're observations from real experiences. By the end of this, you'll not only recognize these signs, but also know how to handle them with strength and resolve. Let's dive in. Sign number 1. They spin a new story to save their reputation. One of the first things I've noticed about people whose true nature has been exposed is how quickly they work to rewrite their story. It's almost like watching an artist hastily repaint a canvas to cover up the original picture. They don't admit fault or own up to the harm they've caused. Instead, they scramble to present themselves in a new light, hoping you'll question what you've uncovered. Think about it. Have you ever confronted someone about their manipulative behavior only for them to flip the narrative completely? Suddenly, they're misunderstood, a victim of circumstance, or even a misunderstood hero who's been wrongly accused. This isn't just damage control, it's a calculated effort to regain control over how they're perceived. I've experienced this firsthand. There was someone in my life I trusted deeply, a colleague who I thought had my back. Over time, their actions began to reveal a darker side. They would undermine my efforts, take credit for my work, and spread subtle lies to tarnish my reputation. When I finally called them out, their response wasn't an apology. Instead, they crafted a sob story about how they'd been under pressure, misunderstood, or just trying to help. They wanted me, and everyone else, to question my judgment and feel sympathy for them. It was manipulation at its finest. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Evil people understand this all too well. They know that if they can change your perception of them, they can control your reactions. This tactic isn't about self-improvement, it's about deception. They weave a new narrative to deflect blame and make you doubt your instincts. Here's where it gets tricky. These stories are often convincing. They're designed to make you second-guess yourself. You might think, maybe I misunderstood them, or could I have overreacted? But deep down, you know the truth. Their sudden transformation isn't genuine, it's a survival tactic. They're not trying to repair the damage they've caused, they're trying to save face. The most dangerous part of this behavior is how it can erode your confidence in your ability to judge character. I've seen it happen to others, and I've felt it myself. That moment of doubt creeps in, making you wonder if you were too harsh or too quick to judge. But here's the hard truth. If someone truly wanted to change, they wouldn't do it just because they were caught. Genuine growth requires reflection, accountability, and time, not a last-minute PR campaign. So how do you handle this? How do you protect yourself from falling for their rewritten narrative? First, remind yourself of the facts. Write them down if you have to. What did they do? How did it make you feel? What patterns of behavior have you observed over time? Keeping a clear record of the truth can help you stay grounded when their words start to cloud your mind. Next, resist the urge to engage in their game. Evil people thrive on emotional reactions. They want you to argue, defend yourself, or try to prove them wrong. Don't give them that satisfaction. Instead, maintain your composure. A simple response like, "I understand your perspective, but I see things differently," can shut down their attempts to manipulate the conversation. You're not denying their version of events, but you're also not validating it. Lastly, lean on Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius teaches us to focus on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and responses. You can't control how they choose to rewrite their story, but you can control how much power you give it. When you refuse to let their narrative dictate your emotions, you take back control of the situation. The truth is, when someone works this hard to reinvent their reputation, it's not because they've changed. It's because they're afraid of being seen for who they really are. Recognize this for what it is, a desperate attempt to maintain their facade, and when you see through it, hold on to that clarity. Don't let their lies become your confusion. Sign number 2. They try to manipulate your emotions. When someone realizes you've seen through their facade, their next move is often subtle but powerful. They'll try to manipulate your emotions. This isn't always obvious. In fact, manipulation often comes wrapped in the guise of concern, kindness, or even guilt. The goal: to make you question your judgment and regain control over how you perceive them. Let me tell you a story from my own life. I once worked with someone who seemed to have a knack for turning every situation in their favor. At first, I thought they were just charming, someone who could navigate conflicts with ease. But over time, I started noticing patterns. They'd pit people against each other, shift blame without hesitation, and constantly play the victim when things didn't go their way. When I finally called them out on it, their response wasn't anger. It was something far more calculated. They didn't lash out or deny their behavior outright. Instead, they flipped the script, telling me how much my words had hurt them. They talked about their struggles, how misunderstood they felt, and how they'd only ever tried to do the right thing. In that moment, I started questioning myself. Was I too harsh? Did I misinterpret their actions? That's exactly what they wanted. This is a classic tactic of emotional manipulators. They know that once you've uncovered their true nature, they can't rely on deception alone. So, they turn your own empathy against you. They want you to feel guilty for standing up for yourself or questioning their intentions. It's a psychological game designed to make you second-guess your reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This Stoic wisdom is a lifeline when dealing with emotional manipulation. The manipulator's power lies in their ability to control your thoughts and feelings. The moment you take back that control, their influence begins to crumble. So how do you recognize emotional manipulation? It often starts with subtle cues. They might play the victim, emphasizing how your actions or words have hurt them, even when you know you've done nothing wrong. They'll bring up past favors or sacrifices they've made for you, trying to make you feel indebted to them, or they'll use flattery and kindness to disarm you, only to twist the knife later when you're least expecting it. For example, imagine confronting someone about their harmful behavior, and instead of addressing the issue, they say something like, "I can't believe you'd think that of me after everything I've done for you." This isn't an apology or an explanation, it's a diversion. They're steering the conversation away from their actions and onto your supposed ingratitude or harshness. What's important to remember is that manipulation thrives on reaction. The more you engage emotionally, whether it's through anger, guilt, or defensiveness, the more they're able to steer the interaction in their favor. But when you respond with calm detachment, their tactics lose their effectiveness. In one instance, I decided to test this approach. The same colleague who had tried to manipulate me with guilt attempted to do it again during a team meeting. Instead of defending myself or reacting emotionally, I stayed neutral. I listened, acknowledged their perspective with a simple, "I hear you," and then calmly reiterated the facts. The shift in power was almost immediate. They didn't know how to respond to my lack of emotional engagement. Without my reaction, their manipulation fell flat. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes a powerful tool. By practicing emotional discipline, you can create a mental buffer between yourself and the manipulator's tactics. Instead of getting drawn into their web, you observe their behavior from a distance. You recognize their attempts for what they are: distractions designed to shift focus away from their actions and onto your emotions. But it's not just about staying calm in the moment. It's also about setting boundaries. Manipulators will push as far as you let them. They'll test your limits, looking for cracks in your resolve. By clearly defining what you will and won't tolerate and sticking to it, you send a strong message that their games won't work on you. Here's the bottom line. Emotional manipulators thrive on chaos, but they can't create it without your participation. The next time someone tries to guilt you, flatter you, or twist your emotions, pause. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself of Marcus Aurelius's words: "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Their manipulation is the obstacle, but it's also the lesson. It's your opportunity to practice clarity, self-control, and emotional resilience. When you take control of your mind and refuse to play their game, you take away their power. And that, my friend, is a victory worth savoring. Sign number 3. They lie to cover up past lies. When someone realizes you've uncovered their true nature, they often resort to a desperate yet predictable strategy: piling lies on top of lies. It's their attempt to rewrite the narrative, to bury the truth so deeply under a web of deception that even you start to question your reality. But here's the thing about lies: they can't stand the test of time or scrutiny, and the more they spin, the easier they are to unravel. I've experienced this firsthand. Years ago, I had a friend who was a master at bending the truth. They'd tell one person one story, another person a completely different version, and somehow managed to keep their deceptions hidden, at least for a while. When I began to notice the inconsistencies, I confronted them. Their response? More lies. They denied, deflected, and even tried to blame me for misunderstanding. It was like watching someone frantically patch holes in a sinking ship. This is a hallmark of someone trying to cover their tracks. Instead of owning up to their actions, they double down. They'll create elaborate stories, make excuses, or shift the blame onto others. Their goal isn't to clear the air or make amends. It's to confuse you, to make you doubt your own understanding of events. And if you're not careful, you might start to believe them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The Stoics valued honesty not just as a moral virtue, but as a foundation for inner peace. Lies create chaos, not just for the liar, but for everyone involved. When you're dealing with someone who constantly fabricates the truth, it's essential to stay grounded in your own reality. Their lies are not your responsibility to untangle, nor are they a reflection of your character. But how do you handle this kind of deception without getting caught in its web? First, recognize the signs. Someone who is lying to cover up past lies often becomes overly defensive or evasive. They might change the subject when pressed for details or lash out to divert attention. They'll rely heavily on vague statements, hoping you won't dig deeper. For example, if you ask them a direct question about an incident and they respond with, "Why does it even matter now?" or "I don't remember it that way," that's a red flag. Another tactic they use is gaslighting, making you doubt your memory or perception. They'll say things like, "You're overthinking this," or "That never happened," even when you're certain it did. This can be incredibly disorienting, especially if the person is someone you once trusted. But remember, their goal is to create confusion, not clarity. The more uncertain you feel, the easier it is for them to maintain control. When faced with this behavior, the Stoic approach is to focus on what you know to be true. Don't waste energy trying to prove their lies or convince them to admit the truth. Instead, anchor yourself in the facts. Write down what you've observed, what you've heard, and what you've experienced. Having a clear record of events can help you stay centered when they try to muddy the waters. In my case, I started documenting the discrepancies in my friends' stories. It wasn't about confronting them with proof or catching them in a lie. It was about keeping myself grounded. When they tried to twist the narrative, I could look back at my notes and remind myself of the truth. This simple act of clarity was incredibly empowering. It allowed me to see their behavior for what it was, a desperate attempt to maintain control, not a reflection of reality. Stoicism teaches us to respond to deceit with calmness and reason, not anger or frustration. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When someone lies to cover up past lies, they're revealing more about themselves than they realize. Their dishonesty is a sign of fear, fear of being exposed, fear of losing control, fear of accountability. Recognizing this can help you approach the situation with compassion, but also with firm boundaries. Boundaries are crucial when dealing with habitual liars. You don't need to call them out on every falsehood or engage in endless debates about the truth. Instead, focus on protecting your own mental and emotional well-being. Limit the information you share with them, and don't rely on them for important matters. Their inability to be honest is not something you can fix, and it's not your job to try. Here's the bottom line. Lies are like cracks in a foundation. The more there are, the weaker the structure becomes. Someone who relies on lies to maintain their image or avoid consequences is building a house of cards. Sooner or later, it will collapse under its own weight. Your role is not to hold it up, but to step away and protect yourself from the fallout. When you encounter this kind of behavior, remember the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect. Let their lies be their burden, not yours. Stay true to your values, hold on to your integrity, and refuse to let their deception define your reality. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, and when it does, you'll be standing firmly on solid ground. Sign before. They try to make you feel stupid. When someone realizes you've uncovered their true nature, they often resort to a subtle yet insidious tactic, undermining your confidence by making you feel foolish. It's not an overt attack. It's a calculated attempt to chip away at your self-esteem so you start doubting your own judgment. If they can make you question your understanding of the situation, they can regain some control. I've seen this happen, and it's a deeply unsettling experience. Imagine opening up to someone about how their actions have hurt you, only for them to respond with, "You're overreacting," or "I thought you were smarter than this." Instead of addressing the issue, they twist the narrative, leaving you feeling isolated and questioning yourself. It's a tactic designed to make you retreat, second-guess your instincts, and ultimately stay quiet. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words ring true in situations like this. When someone tries to make you feel stupid, it's their way of projecting their own insecurities onto you. They can't face the fact that you've seen through them, so they attempt to discredit your perspective. But the truth is, their insults reveal more about them than they do about you. Let me share a personal example. Years ago, I had a coworker who constantly undermined me in meetings. Whenever I voiced an idea or concern, they'd roll their eyes, make a dismissive comment, or imply that I didn't understand the bigger picture. At first, I doubted myself. Was I really missing something? Did I not belong in that room? But then I started noticing a pattern. Their behavior wasn't limited to me. They did the same thing to anyone who challenged their authority or exposed their shortcomings. It wasn't about my intelligence or competence. It was about their need to maintain control. When you're faced with this kind of behavior, the first step is to recognize it for what it is, a tactic to silence you. People who resort to belittling others are often grappling with their own insecurities. They can't handle the truth about themselves, so they deflect it by making you feel small. Understanding this dynamic can help you detach from their words and protect your self-esteem. Stoicism offers powerful tools for dealing with situations like this. One of the most effective is practicing indifference to others' opinions. As Epictetus advised, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When someone tries to make you feel stupid, their words only have power if you give them meaning. You can choose to see their comments as noise, irrelevant, and unworthy of your energy. Here's how I applied this in my own life. After months of enduring my co-workers' condescension, I decided to stop engaging with their behavior. Instead of reacting emotionally or trying to defend myself, I focused on presenting my ideas clearly and confidently. When they made a dismissive comment, I didn't take the bait. I'd nod, acknowledge their input, and move on. Over time, their attempts to undermine me lost their impact. They realized they couldn't control my confidence, and their behavior began to shift. Another Stoic principle that's helped me is the idea of focusing on what's within your control. You can't stop someone from trying to belittle you, but you can control how you respond. If their comments sting, take a moment to reflect. Are their words based on truth, or are they an attempt to manipulate you? More often than not, you'll find that their criticisms are baseless. Instead of internalizing their negativity, remind yourself of your strengths and accomplishments. It's also helpful to reframe the situation. Instead of seeing their behavior as a personal attack, view it as a sign of their own struggles. People who feel secure in themselves don't need to tear others down. Recognizing this can help you approach the situation with empathy, even as you maintain firm boundaries. Boundaries are crucial when dealing with people who try to make you feel stupid. If their behavior becomes a recurring pattern, it's okay to call it out calmly and assertively. For example, you might say, "I feel like my perspective isn't being valued. Can we focus on the idea instead of personal comments?" This shifts the focus back to the issue at hand and signals that you won't tolerate disrespect. However, not every situation requires confrontation. Sometimes, the best response is to disengage entirely. If someone's goal is to provoke you, refusing to react can be the most powerful move. By maintaining your composure, you deny them the satisfaction of seeing you flustered. In reflecting on my own experiences, I've realized that the moments when I felt the most belittled were also opportunities for growth. Each time I stood my ground and refused to let someone's words define me, I became stronger. I learned to trust my instincts, value my perspective, and prioritize my self-worth over others' opinions. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This wisdom is a lifeline when dealing with toxic individuals. Their words are just that, words. They don't define you, and they don't diminish your worth. In the end, the best way to counter someone who tries to make you feel stupid is to rise above their tactics. Stay true to yourself, trust your judgment, and remember that their behavior is a reflection of their own insecurities. You have the power to choose how you respond, and in that choice lies your freedom. Sign number 5. They lie to cover up past lies. When someone realizes you've uncovered the truth about them, they often react with a desperate, predictable strategy: more lies. It's as if they believe that by weaving a bigger web of deceit, they can escape accountability. Instead of owning up to their actions, they double down, constructing elaborate stories to cover their tracks. These lies aren't just casual, they're calculated, designed to confuse, deflect, and make you doubt what you know. I've been there before. You confront someone with the truth, something undeniable, something you've pieced together with clarity, and instead of admitting fault, they spin a new narrative, one so complex and full of contradictions that you begin to question your own understanding. Their goal isn't just to avoid blame, it's to make you second-guess yourself and the reality you've uncovered. The Stoics were well aware of the destructive power of lies and the chaos they create. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But people who live by deception see truth as a threat. They fear the vulnerability of being exposed, so they create layers of falsehoods to protect their fragile image. This, in turn, creates an exhausting cycle for anyone who dares to confront them. One time, I had a close friend who consistently lied about small, seemingly insignificant things. At first, I dismissed it as harmless, but over time, those lies piled up and patterns emerged. When I finally called them out on a particularly blatant deception, their response wasn't an apology. It was a cascade of new lies. They blamed other people, made up excuses, and even attempted to rewrite the past to fit their version of events. I remember feeling both frustrated and bewildered. How could someone cling so tightly to their falsehoods when the truth was so glaringly obvious? Here's the thing about lies. They're like quicksand. The more someone struggles to keep their story afloat, the deeper they sink into their own mess. For a Stoic, witnessing this can be maddening. But Stoicism reminds us that while we can't control others' actions, we can control our reactions. Instead of getting pulled into the drama of their deceit, we can step back and observe with clarity. When someone starts piling on lies, it's essential to stay grounded in the truth. Write things down if you need to. Document events, conversations, and evidence so you can reference them when their stories start to shift. This isn't about engaging in a battle of wits. It's about protecting your own sense of reality. As Epictetus said, we are not disturbed by things, but by the view we take of them. If you let their lies distort your perception, they've already won. One tactic I've found helpful is refusing to engage with their lies. When they try to spin a new narrative, don't argue or try to disprove every detail. Instead, respond calmly with statements like, "I know what I saw," or "The facts speak for themselves." This approach takes the wind out of their sails. They're expecting an emotional reaction, a heated debate where they can manipulate your responses. By staying composed and sticking to the truth, you deny them that power. Another important aspect is recognizing why they lie. Most of the time it's rooted in fear. Fear of losing control, fear of consequences, fear of being seen for who they really are. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it can help you approach the situation with a clearer perspective. Instead of taking their lies personally, see them as a reflection of their internal struggles. This mindset shift can make it easier to detach emotionally. That doesn't mean you should tolerate their deceit or allow them to manipulate you. Boundaries are crucial. If someone consistently lies to you, it's a sign that they don't respect you or the relationship. You have every right to distance yourself from that toxicity. This isn't about punishing them, it's about protecting your peace. I remember eventually confronting that friend again, not with anger, but with firmness. I told them that their dishonesty had eroded my trust and that I couldn't continue the friendship unless they were willing to be truthful. Their reaction was predictable. They denied everything, tried to shift the blame, and accused me of being too critical. But by that point, I had already made my decision. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And in doing so, I freed myself from the endless cycle of their lies. Stoic philosophy teaches us that truth is a cornerstone of a virtuous life. When someone chooses lies over truth, they not only harm others, but also degrade their own character. As Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. For someone who lives by deceit, their soul is painted in shades of fear and insecurity. You don't have to let their lies stain your life. In the end, dealing with liars is about clarity and self-respect. Hold on to the truth, set boundaries, and don't let their falsehoods cloud your judgment. Remember, their lies are their burden to bear, not yours. Let them wrestle with their web of deceit while you walk forward, free and unshaken. Sign number 6. They play the victim. When someone realizes you've uncovered the truth about their actions or intentions, a common defense mechanism is to play the victim. Suddenly, they shift the narrative, portraying themselves as the ones who've been wronged. They'll go to great lengths to make you feel guilty for calling out their behavior, and if you're not careful, you might even start questioning whether you were too harsh or misunderstood them. This tactic is calculated. It's designed to divert attention from their wrongdoing and make you the villain in their story. I've seen this firsthand. There was a time when I confronted someone about their manipulative behavior. They had been taking advantage of my trust, twisting situations to benefit themselves at my expense. When I finally addressed it, I expected denial or even anger. Instead, they flipped the script entirely. "I can't believe you'd think that about me," they said, with tears welling up in their eyes. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you see me." For a moment, I doubted myself. Had I misjudged the situation? Was I being too harsh? But as I stepped back and examined the facts, it became clear that this was just another manipulation tactic. Their tears and indignation weren't genuine. They were a smokescreen to avoid accountability. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to remain calm and objective in the face of such behavior. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In moments like these, it's crucial to anchor yourself in logic rather than emotion. When someone plays the victim, they're trying to pull you into an emotional storm where they have the upper hand. The key is not to get swept away. One way to handle this is to stick to the facts. When they start deflecting or playing the victim, gently but firmly bring the conversation back to the issue at hand. For example, you might say, "I understand that this is upsetting for you, but we need to address what happened." This approach acknowledges their feelings without letting them derail the conversation. It also signals that you're not going to be manipulated into abandoning the truth. Another important step is to recognize their behavior for what it is, a distraction. Playing the victim is a classic deflection tactic. By making you feel guilty or questioning your actions, they hope to shift the focus away from their behavior and onto your reaction. Don't fall for it. Stay grounded in your observations and remember why you confronted them in the first place. Stoic philosophy also emphasizes the importance of self-awareness in such situations. Epictetus taught that we cannot control how others behave, but we can control how we respond. When someone plays the victim, it's easy to feel frustrated or even angry. You might be tempted to argue or defend yourself, but this only gives them more ammunition to twist the situation. Instead, approach the interaction with calmness and clarity. Remind yourself that their reaction is not a reflection of you, but of their inability to face the truth. In my experience, people who resort to playing the victim often rely on this tactic because it's worked for them in the past. They've learned that guilt is a powerful tool, one that can disarm even the most confident of confrontations. But once you recognize this pattern, you can break free from its grip. Don't let their victim narrative cloud your judgment or make you second-guess your intentions. It's also worth noting that playing the victim often comes from a place of insecurity. These individuals fear accountability because it forces them to confront parts of themselves they'd rather ignore. By shifting the focus onto you, they avoid facing their own shortcomings. Understanding this doesn't mean excusing their behavior, but it can help you approach the situation with empathy rather than resentment. They're not just trying to manipulate you, they're also running from their own fears. However, empathy doesn't mean you have to tolerate their behavior. Boundaries are essential. If someone consistently plays the victim to avoid accountability, it's a sign of emotional immaturity and a lack of respect for the relationship. You have every right to set limits and protect your own mental well-being. For example, if they start spiraling into a victim narrative, you can calmly say, "I'm sorry you feel that way, but this conversation is about addressing the issue, not assigning blame." This not only diffuses the situation, but also makes it clear that you're not going to be swayed by their attempts to manipulate the narrative. Stoic philosophy teaches us to focus on what we can control, and that includes our emotional reactions. When faced with someone playing the victim, it's easy to feel frustrated, but remember, their behavior is not your responsibility. You don't have to fix them, nor do you have to accept their version of the story. Your only obligation is to act with integrity and stay true to your values. In the end, playing the victim is just another mask that manipulative people wear. It's a way to avoid responsibility and maintain control. But when you see through the act and refuse to engage, you take away their power. You remind them and yourself that the truth cannot be twisted, no matter how hard they try. And that is the ultimate strength, staying anchored in your values while letting their storms pass without touching you. Sign number 7. They twist the truth. When manipulative or malicious people feel exposed, their instinctive reaction is often to twist the truth. They take the reality of the situation and distort it into a version that benefits them. They know the power of perception. If they can get even one person to doubt your version of events, they've planted the seed of confusion. And confusion, my friend, is their greatest ally. I've seen this happen countless times. There was a co-worker I once had, someone who seemed charming and helpful on the surface, but was skilled at shifting narratives to serve their own agenda. When a project went awry due to their negligence, they didn't own up to it. Instead, they crafted a story that painted me as the one who had dropped the ball. I remember sitting in a meeting, stunned as they spun a tale so convincing that even I began to question my role in the situation. That's the power of twisted truth. It makes you second-guess what you know to be real. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations, "If someone can show me I am wrong, I will gladly change. But no one can force me to abandon the truth if it remains clear." This is the Stoic way when faced with someone twisting the truth. Hold steadfast to what you know is real. Don't let their web of lies ensnare you. The more grounded you are in the facts, the harder it is for their distortions to take root. Why do they twist the truth? Because admitting fault or taking responsibility is terrifying to them. It threatens their carefully constructed image, whether that's in the workplace, in a friendship, or even within a family. By warping the narrative, they attempt to shift the blame or muddy the waters so no one can pin anything on them definitively. It's a defense mechanism that keeps them in control, or at least gives them the illusion of it. Here's the tricky part. They often weave just enough truth into their lies to make them seem plausible. It's not a blatant fabrication, but a calculated distortion that makes you look like the bad guy while painting them as the victim or the misunderstood hero. For example, they might take a single mistake you made and blow it out of proportion, conveniently leaving out their role in the situation. Or they'll cherry-pick details to suit their narrative, knowing that most people won't take the time to dig deeper. So how do you deal with this? First and foremost, stay calm. I know that's easier said than done when someone is spreading lies about you, but reacting emotionally is exactly what they want. The moment you lose your composure, they gain the upper hand. Instead, channel your inner Stoic and focus on the facts. Write them down if you have to. Keep a clear record of events and don't hesitate to calmly present the truth if the situation calls for it. Another important step is to avoid getting dragged into their game. Twisting the truth is a baiting tactic. They want you to get defensive, to argue, to exhaust yourself trying to set the record straight. But as Epictetus wisely said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If you remain composed and stick to the facts without engaging in their drama, their lies will eventually unravel on their own. I've found that one of the most effective responses to twisted truths is to shine a light on them with clarity and simplicity. Manipulative people thrive in ambiguity. They want things to be messy and unclear because it makes it harder for others to see what's really happening. By calmly stating the facts and refusing to get emotional, you cut through their chaos like a knife. For instance, if someone accuses you of something you didn't do, resist the urge to argue. Instead, state the facts plainly. That's not accurate. Here's what actually happened. Then stop. Don't over-explain or get caught up in defending yourself. The more you speak, the more opportunities they have to twist your words. Let the truth stand on its own. It's also crucial to protect your reputation. Malicious individuals often twist the truth in an attempt to discredit you. Don't underestimate the power of maintaining strong relationships with people who know your character. When others can vouch for your integrity, it becomes much harder for lies to stick. In my case with the co-worker, I leaned on the trust I'd built with my team. They knew my work ethic and my approach to problems, which made it difficult for the twisted narrative to gain traction. One of the toughest lessons I've learned is that you can't control what others believe. No matter how clearly you present the truth, some people will choose to believe the lie, especially if it suits their biases or agenda. This can be deeply frustrating, but it's also liberating in a way. Stoicism teaches us to let go of the things we cannot control, and other people's perceptions fall squarely into that category. What you can control is how you conduct yourself, with honesty, integrity, and unwavering commitment to the truth. Remember this: lies have a short shelf life. They might cause temporary confusion or damage, but the truth has a way of coming to light. As Marcus Aurelius said, time is a sort of river of passing events, and strong is its current. No sooner is a thing brought to sight than it is swept by, and another takes its place. Trust that the truth, like that river, will eventually reveal what needs to be seen. When you encounter someone twisting the truth, see it for what it is: a sign of their weakness, not your failure. They twist because they fear the strength of your clarity and conviction. Stand firm, stay calm, and know that the truth doesn't need embellishment or defense. It simply is. Let that be your anchor, and you'll weather the storm of their deception with grace and strength. Sign 8. They try to play the victim. When malicious individuals realize you've uncovered their true nature, one of their most common tactics is to flip the narrative and cast themselves as the victim. It's a masterful performance designed to elicit sympathy, shift blame, and make you question your own perception of reality. If they can make you feel guilty or responsible for their actions, they regain control, and you're right back under their influence. I remember an encounter with someone I trusted deeply, a friend who, over time, revealed manipulative tendencies. When I finally confronted them about their behavior, their response wasn't to apologize or take accountability. Instead, they began recounting every hardship they'd ever faced, painting themselves as a misunderstood soul who'd been dealt a bad hand in life. They didn't deny their actions outright, but justified them by saying, "You don't know what I've been through." Suddenly, the focus shifted from their wrongdoing to their pain, and I found myself feeling guilty for even bringing it up. It was a calculated move, and it almost worked. This tactic plays on a basic human instinct: compassion. Most of us don't want to see others suffer, and malicious individuals know how to exploit this. They'll share sob stories, twist past events to cast themselves in a favorable light, and appeal to your sense of empathy. The goal is to make you question whether you're being too harsh or unfair in holding them accountable. But here's the thing: compassion doesn't mean tolerating abuse. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Recognizing someone's pain doesn't mean you have to accept their toxic behavior. Emotional manipulation often masquerades as vulnerability, but true vulnerability comes with accountability, not excuses. So how do you deal with someone who's playing the victim? First, stay grounded in the facts. When they start to redirect the conversation toward their struggles, gently but firmly bring it back to the issue at hand. For example, if they say, "You don't understand what I've been through," you might respond with, "I hear that you've faced challenges, but that doesn't excuse this behavior." This acknowledges their feelings without letting them off the hook. Second, resist the urge to fix or save them. When someone you care about is in pain, your instinct might be to help, to find solutions, to reassure them. But malicious individuals use this instinct against you. They want you to focus on their problems so you forget about the harm they've caused. Don't fall into the trap of trying to rescue them. It's not your responsibility to solve their issues, especially when they've shown no willingness to take accountability. I learned this the hard way with my friend. For months after that confrontation, I found myself walking on eggshells, afraid of adding to their supposed burden. Every time I tried to address their behavior, they'd deflect with another tale of hardship, and I'd back off, worried about hurting them further. It wasn't until I stepped back and examined the situation objectively that I realized the pattern. Their pain, real or exaggerated, was being weaponized to avoid accountability. Another key strategy is to maintain firm boundaries. When someone plays the victim, they're often testing how much emotional energy they can extract from you. By setting clear limits, you protect yourself from being drawn into their drama. For example, if they start to spiral into a pity party during a conversation, you can say, "I understand you're upset, but I can't continue this discussion if it's not constructive." This isn't cold or unkind. It's a way of preserving your own emotional health while refusing to enable their behavior. Stoic philosophy teaches us to focus on what's within our control, and one of the most powerful things you can control is your attention. When a manipulative person tries to play the victim, they're demanding your attention, your sympathy, your validation, your energy. But you don't have to give it to them. Instead, redirect your attention to what truly matters: your values, your peace of mind, and your growth. Epictetus wisely observed, "When someone is properly grounded in life, they shouldn't have to look outside themselves for approval." This applies not just to us, but also to the people we deal with. Someone who constantly seeks to justify their actions by playing the victim is not grounded in their own integrity. They rely on others to excuse their behavior, to tell them they're not at fault. Don't be the person who feeds that cycle. It's also important to recognize that not every story of hardship is a manipulation. Some people genuinely struggle and express their pain without ulterior motives. The difference lies in how they handle accountability. A person with integrity will acknowledge their mistakes even while sharing their struggles. A manipulator, on the other hand, will use their struggles to avoid taking responsibility. In my case, once I stopped engaging with my friend's victim narrative, their behavior changed. They became defensive, accusing me of being unsupportive and cold. But I stood firm, knowing that supporting someone doesn't mean enabling their manipulation. Over time, I realized that their stories, while likely rooted in some truth, were being used as a shield to deflect blame. The relationship eventually ended, but I walked away with a deeper understanding of how to navigate these situations in the future. When someone plays the victim, they're trying to disarm you. They want you to lower your defenses, to feel guilty for holding them accountable, to question your judgment. Don't let them. Approach the situation with compassion, yes, but also with clarity and firmness. Remember, empathy doesn't mean allowing yourself to be manipulated. True compassion includes accountability, both for yourself and for others. Marcus Aurelius's wisdom offers a powerful reminder: waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. In other words, focus on your own integrity and actions. Let others do the same. If they can't, that's not your burden to carry. Stay true to your values, and you'll navigate even the most manipulative situations with strength and grace.